GrowCFO is where finance leaders grow together. Join thousands of like-minded professionals using GrowCFO to access the combined knowledge and experience of the finance leader community. You can join us today, GrowCFO.net. Hello and welcome to the GrowCFO Show. I'm your host, Kevin Appleby, and today I've got a returning guest, Melanie Coeshott. Melanie, as you will know, is one of our GrowCFO course facilitators. Now, last time Melanie and I spoke, she had a burning desire to come back and talk about something that she's doing a lot of research into and developing new material around. So, Melanie, welcome back to the show. Tell us more.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, the topic that I want to talk about today that I have been developing is about the notion of being finance fit. And I'm sure you appear on social media or are present on Facebook or different things. And sometimes we have this notion of being fit, as in beach fit or swimming fit or running fit. And actually, as finance professionals, there's an opportunity for us to be fit as well. Maybe not quite fit in the same way, but fit for purpose and fit for the future. So the fit stands for, well, FIT. The F is future looking and forward looking. The I is for innovation and the T is for thriving. So would it be helpful if I expanded a little bit on these points?
Yeah, there's no exercise equipment in this, no diet.
No exercise, absolutely. Nobody's going to get any kind of physical pain or get hot and sweaty.
Yeah, so go on then. FIT.
FIT. So the F, the future orientation. So we know that any kind of organization, any kind of business, any kind of economy, any kind of society goes through change. We've experienced a lot of change in terms of technology, in terms of, I guess, people's ideas, mindsets, things. And finance, because we are central, I would say central, but sometimes we're not front and center. Sometimes we're somewhere in the background, but central in a supportive role. In any kind of organization, we are also going to be affected by change. And sometimes as a finance team, we have to, I guess, keep up with the program, keep up with the business, or keep up with technology, or keep up with changes that are happening in the industry. And that's all be it good and well, and we can do those things. We can also get in front of some of these changes. And actually, we could help to be in the middle of those conversations. So becoming front and center in our organizations if we're not already. Or it could be about understanding some of the technology and helping that be embedded into the organization. We can be, have a seat at the table and be steering some of these changes. So that future orientation is actually really important. And it's not to say that all finance people are looking in the past, but we know at least some of our function is looking at history, historic records, whether that's in the short-term history or a little bit longer back. Actually, we need to do some of those things, but we want to step out beyond that, and we want to be guiding and steering and involved in some of those future decisions and future orientation as well. So that's the F. The I then is around innovation. And maybe we're not known for our creative skills necessarily in finance, and probably don't want to be from a creative accounting perspective. But that doesn't mean that we can't be innovative in the way that we think. So in terms of our mindset, but in terms of some of the changes that we bring to the business. And the thing with innovation, it's not about inventing things. It can be small changes that can actually bring about difference. And this could be linked to some of the changes that I was talking about before in the future orientation sector, but it could also be in terms of process improvement. So that could be continuous process improvement. That could be things like finance transformation or wider business transformation, digitalization or automation that we can be fully behind. But it's going to start with an innovative mindset. And that's possibly not something that we already have or naturally have in our finance roles. And then the third bit, the thriving. So I work with a lot of finance teams and a lot of finance individuals, and we're generally quite busy people. We have full to-do lists. We're on that never-ending kind of month-end cycle or the forecast cycle. And there's a risk that we might get bogged down with some of the things that we're doing. So there's some elements of being resilient, being able to thrive in spite of whatever's going on in our organizations. And also that opportunity to maybe think about, well, what skills do we need, and help to get some awareness to develop ourselves, maybe to develop our wider teams as well, and also to enhance and develop those relationships within and beyond finance as well. So the F, the I, the T, the future orientation, the innovation, and thriving.
Right. Okay. I get that. But that feels like potentially for some people a big mindset shift. How do we go about putting some of that into practice, Melanie?
Yeah, now that's a very good point that you raise. And that mindset shift is going to feel like a colossal jump for many people. So understanding that this is around change and evolution and bringing about change in a way that can be sustainable and yet make enough of a positive difference. The first point then is going to be around mindset. And that is going to also start with somebody in the business that gets it, that wants to make that change, that is intentional about that change and has the clarity of what they're trying to get towards, and also the energy to be able to take their people on a journey. And that tone at the top, and this is generally going to come from somebody fairly senior within finance, whether it's the CFO or the FD or the head of finance, depending on how the finance organization is structured. You're going to need somebody with that clarity of vision and that energy and those relationships with their people to be able to bring about some of those mindset changes that are required. And to your point, this is going to feel like a big change, and breaking this down into bite-sized chunks or baby steps is going to be important so that some people don't feel too overwhelmed and kind of get put off by this kind of change up front.
The F, future orientated. We've got a problem straight away because most finance people are backward looking. Now, we're producing last month's results, last quarter's results, last year's results. So we're always, almost by definition of what we're doing, we're processing transactions that have happened and putting business results together. So at least 50% of the job is not forward-looking.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And there's still going to be a need for that historic accounting. Historic, even if it's something that's happened this day or might have happened months later, there is always going to be a need for some of that compliance role, compliance work. And there's also the future elements of that. So it's not to say that everybody's role changes from one day to the next. There is going to be, maybe depending on the size of the team, is that certain elements of everybody's job is going to have a forward-looking piece as well as a more backward-looking or compliance piece. But it's starting with the mindset and seeing what is possible and what can be possible in terms of future, supporting the future development of the business. The risk is if we don't do that, individuals are going to get left behind, or the whole finance team's going to be left behind. It's not going to be fit for purpose in terms of supporting the growth, the development of the organization.
Let's face it, you walk into the monthly business meeting and say, oh, here's the P&L account for last month. You get a not very excited look on most people's faces, and it's not again, Kevin. It's last month, you did this the month before. You're going to tell us all how we failed to hit budget. What you want to be doing is going to that meeting and telling them something about where the business is going in the future and the decisions that need to be made in order to get there.
Absolutely. Is those discussions which are more relevant, more insightful, that are going to help to enlighten, steer the business forward. And it's not to say that finance needs to have all the answers, but being equipped with the ability to ask questions that are going to increase that curiosity, increase that insight, and ultimately lead to decisions that are useful and helpful for that business.
Yeah. So first up there is an attitude that's got to lead to trying to prompt the decisions that need to be taken rather than getting bogged down into simply, why haven't we achieved what we were supposed to have achieved?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really interesting to look at. That really is a culture shift for a lot of people.
Yeah, I am pretty sure that there are going to be lots of finance teams that are not ready for this at this point in time. So anytime there is change of any kind, you're going to have some people that are keen on this change. And if we take, I'm having various discussions with finance teams at the moment. So some of those teams, they're ready because the person at the top, the CFO, the FD, they're ready. They are very aware that their team is not in the right space at the moment. So whether that's not in the right space from an attitude or a mindset perspective, probably not in the right space from the way they're working, and which then affects productivity and effectiveness as well. So having somebody that recognizes that, and not from a perspective of this team isn't doing what they're wanting, but in terms of how can we evolve the team and the function so that everybody is working in a different way so that we are in a better position to support the business in its forward trajectory.
And managing that change in people is a very interesting subject, okay? Any change, some people are going to be winners, some people are going to be losers. Now, you would think normally that most of the people that are going to be winners would be in favour of the change, liking it and getting on with it. Those people that you'd think would like it, a lot of them are held back by the change simply because of the unfamiliarity of the new normal. You got any thoughts about how we help people through that, even when they can see the change is the right thing to do?
Yeah, change is a very interesting challenge. I think because so many of us have experienced so much change in our careers, even in our current roles, I think sometimes there's the change fatigue in terms of, we have this, after this, after this, after this. And it's almost like, when are we going to come up for air? We don't always have maybe the right energy, or we don't always have the right perspective to be able to see things clearly. So that can definitely be a challenge. I think the other thing is the uncertainty. So whether we're the one driving the change or we're the one in the passenger seat or maybe in the back seat, we don't always know what the outcome looks like, or we don't always know what good looks like or what done looks like. And none of us have crystal balls, and we don't always know how things are going to turn out because things happen along that journey. But I think without any kind of outcome, or this is what good looks like, or this is what good looks like. So definition of outcome, sometimes if people are kind of in the dark and don't really know what that looks like, or can't imagine what that looks and feels like, then there's blockers that come up. And we could be up for change in general. Oh yeah, I love change. I love things, but oh no, I've got to do my day job and I've got to do this, and I can't possibly spend time on anything apart from these particular set of initiatives. So I think sometimes without that clarity, there's blockers that we might put in place. I think as well, so that's a general thing in terms of that uncertainty or ambiguity. I think as well, change can be scary, because not only do we not know what the overall outcome is, it's the what's in it for me. So actually, how's that going to change my role? How's that going to change the reports that I pull? How's that going to change the information that I can get out of the system so that I can have my conversations with my stakeholders? So there's that, then it becomes quite personal, because who knows how that's going to affect me? And sometimes in change, you said there's winners and losers. Change sometimes means that people's jobs change fundamentally. Change sometimes means that people's jobs don't exist ultimately. And so this uncertainty, together with what's in it for me, can make people feel very vulnerable. And that vulnerability, then people don't necessarily want to see, hear, or be involved with it. Now, ultimately, if people are more involved, okay, we don't always know the future, but we can get curious, we can ask questions, we can help to shape what that future looks like. We can be involved with the discussions that help shape this, and helping people to see that actually they can be a part of it. They may or may not be part of the future state, who knows? But if they're involved, they're more likely to be part of it in the future than if they sit back and don't want to engage. And also, it can be helpful having all of their perspectives. So inviting people's perspectives, helping them feel included and part of the journey, can be really useful from a leader perspective as well.
I think that inclusion piece is absolutely vital. I'm going back to years and years of doing change projects as a consultant. And there's a big difference in the success of a change when people feel as though they developed the new systems or the new ways of working versus the new systems or the new ways of working being imposed on them. The thing that you might be doing in the change might be exactly the same, but if people feel as though they were responsible for designing that, then they're much more likely to adapt to it.
Yeah. Now, I completely agree with that. So being involved in that change, and that's almost like the roadmap of how we get there. I think we still need somebody to have that clarity of vision, to be able to help people to understand where we're heading. Because I think if we don't have that, then, don't buy into it, or don't know what you're getting at. So having somebody that has either been there and done that, or somebody that can explain that well. And sometimes this involves people externally coming in, or people that have experienced that change, or people that have been experienced in delivering that kind of change initiative before, to be able to explain that outcome. And that includes the good things, but that can include some challenges, or being realistic about that as well. But having something that people can aim towards, and then that inclusivity in terms of, and how are we going to get there? So this is where we are at the moment. What are the steps that we need to take? What are the milestones? What are the challenges? What are the risks? What are the strengths of the team that we can leverage to be able to help us get to where we want to? And helping people feel included and involved will help them to feel more engaged on that journey too.
So this all starts with the finance leader, very definitely.
Yeah.
Vision, communicating the vision, and then involving the team into what we're going to do. So it needs a very open style of leadership.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've covered the future to death there. The innovative bit. I think we are quite innovative generally as finance folks.
I think we can be, yeah. And I certainly think about a number of people that I know in finance, in terms of when they have time and when they have the inclination and when they have the opportunity. I've seen some really innovative changes, improvements take place. I think the challenge is sometimes we don't have the time. You don't have, maybe not the inclination, maybe is that change fatigue a little bit as well. Maybe we feel we don't have the permission, we don't feel empowered to do that. But when we have some space, then that innovation can certainly shine through.
I think it's a permission that's the interesting one there. I think kind of knowing, having that vision that we've just talked about coming down from the top, and saying that we are going to be prepared for the future, we're going to be looking forward, we're going to be future first. Then saying on top of that, and okay, we've got to be clever in the way we do things, we've got to innovate. If you get that message coming across, not necessarily saying what the innovations are going to be, but putting people in a place where they aren't afraid to try things out, aren't afraid to experiment, I think is what we're talking about there.
Absolutely.
Is there an issue in finance, though, that we are the sort of people that need to reconcile things? We're the sort of people that may need to have things right. Are we the bank reconciliations out by a penny? I've got to go and find that penny.
I think some of us might be that way inclined, but I don't think all of us are. And I think certainly from a stereotypical perspective, there is that accountants will be analysing things and need to go to that nth degree. I think there are a number of accountants that have moved on beyond that. And I think that's important. And that there's always going to be a time and place for certain things to be done to a high degree of accuracy or detail, but that's not always required. And I think sometimes maybe some of the more junior staff might be looking to their leaders in terms of having that permission. So as finance leaders, whether we're managing one or two people or we're managing the whole department, helping people to understand the difference between when that detailed analysis and getting things right to the penny is required and when it's not. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't care about our work and not have attention to detail and not do things to a good standard. But the 80-20 rule says that often we spend a lot more time getting things perfect when actually we could spend less time, get things good enough and be able to move on and then add more value somewhere else. So actually we could be spending less of our time analysing things and pulling reports together and making them look pretty, and more time standing back and having conversations with people in different parts of the business to uncover insights or improving our processes so that we can save time overall, or we can spend more time in the value-added parts of our work rather than doing the churn instead. And I think sometimes that permission, empowerment, encouragement might not always be as forthcoming as it could be.
Yeah, I think we can take a lesson or two from the builders of bits of hardware in there. So if you step back and look at the iPhone, for instance, the very first iPhone that came out, vastly different to what we use today.
Yeah.
But I bet that very first iPhone was vastly different to the imagination that the people that devised it was. Imagine, I think the product that they put out, we'd probably be lucky if it was 50% of the way there. I think if we always wait for that kind of perfection to arrive, or to be exactly what it is that we wanted, then no, we'd never deliver anything. Far better to get half a solution out there and refine it as you implement it.
Yeah.
As it is to wait around to get the 100% right version.
Yeah. But sometimes that takes courage, doesn't it? It takes courage from the people doing the work. It takes courage from the people making the decisions. It can take courage and resilience from people that might be at the firing end of people that are not happy with the changes that have been implemented, that maybe are not half-baked, but half-cooked. And so people are frustrated that they thought they were getting more. And yet sometimes if we look at actually that takes us forward, or that enables us to do more things in the future, it's how we see things, isn't it? So how we position things.
It can have its pluses as well. No, the team comes along and says, "Oh, Kevin, that new report, it's rubbish. It's not telling me the sort of information I need it to tell me." And you suddenly think, okay, great. Well, what do you need it to tell you? And you think, okay, yeah, we can go do that. Version 2 will have that in.
Yeah.
You'd spent longer developing version 1.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have put in what they wanted in version 2. You'd have spent a lot of time polishing the wrong report.
Yeah. It's always easier to review something and critique it to be improved in the future rather than creating that first version of something. But actually, it's important to get the first version out there so that you can then review and critique and improve it in the future.
Yeah. I remember learning something about failure early in running my own business and seeing it over and over again as we've developed GrowCFO. And it's the message of embracing failure, because you're going to fail all the time. When you're trying things out, you're going to fail all the time. Failure isn't bad. Failure is a learning experience. The message that I got from one particular person was fail fast, fail frequently, and fail forward.
Yeah.
Fail fast. Well, no, the sooner you find out it's wrong, the better, and you can pivot to what's right. You're going to have to fail frequently and pivot multiple times to get to where you actually want to be, and always fail forwards so that you're making progress.
Yeah.
Now, I look back at the development of GrowCFO, of things that we've done in the early days that we don't do anymore, things that we introduced and have since scrapped and changed or altered. And because you think you know what's needed, but you only actually find out what's really needed by trying it out.
Yes, absolutely. And it goes back to that boldness that we were talking about before. None of us have a crystal ball. And if we try something and we can see, we can keep the bits that work well for us, and we can then update, amend, change, improve the bits that need improving. And if we do that, as you say, frequently, then we can end up with a better outcome overall.
I think we've never been in a better time for innovating what we do on a day-to-day basis, because we've got all these wonderful new AI tools hanging around.
Absolutely. And I think that technology is then part of the future and the innovative piece, because, as you say, we've got all these tools, we've got software that a few years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, new software would come out, and we're probably, as a finance group of people, we'd probably be a little bit wary of things like this. And now we have tools at our fingertips that allow us to be curious and experiment and try things out. So, as you say, there's never been a better time for us to be innovative as individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. So we come back to the final letter, the T.
Yeah, the thriving bits. This is the bit that's closest to my heart. So yes, thriving. I mean, thriving is important. It's not just about surviving, and we don't all just want to be getting to the end of the day or getting to the end of the week. Actually, as a finance team, we want to be thriving. We want to be thriving as individuals, and as a team, we want to be thriving as well. And part of that is about being resilient, being physically resilient, mentally resilient. It can be about developing ourselves. So actually we want to be working more synergistically or building up our strengths so that we can cope with more or different or better, whether it's the changes and or developing ourselves to enhance our learning, our responsibility, our position, our value with the business as well. And it's also about relationships. So relationships within finance between different members of the finance team, the finance function, and beyond finance, building, establishing, enhancing relationships with either other parts of the business or beyond the organization as well. And all of that comes into thriving for me.
And to me, there's a big part of job satisfaction.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How many people, I've seen surveys that really worry me about the number of people that go to work and do not enjoy their job. To me, life is too short for that to happen.
Absolutely.
How do you get into a position where you get excited about going to work, look forward to it, really enjoy it, and use the things that you're good at on a day-to-day basis?
And for some people, maybe they've not been in a position where they do appreciate and do feel satisfied and fulfilled by what they do. Maybe it's been so long that they've felt like that they can't conceive that it's possible. And yet it is possible. Life is too short. We can find something that makes our heart sing. And sometimes we're not in the right role. Sometimes we're not in the right organization. And yet sometimes with some changes, and it's not to say that it's always the responsibility of the person at the top, but that person does have a responsibility to themselves, to other people. And each individual has some responsibility as well in terms of helping find some fulfillment, some joy in their work. Now, sometimes we can find it within the roles that we're in, which is amazing. And often that's by some tweaks rather than some large changes. It might be working out what's working for you and what's not working for you and having a conversation. What can I do more of? Can I do more of the things that I really enjoy or that I'm good at? Can I do less of some of the other things? Sometimes that isn't possible due to the size of the finance team or due to the nature of the role and the responsibilities within there. But if we don't stop and think about these things and have a conversation, then it's certainly not going to change. And actually, sometimes by having those conversations, then there are some things that can become unlocked. And okay, maybe we've still got to do some of the things that we don't enjoy so much. But actually, if we're getting exposure to other things and we're invited to different meetings, or we're allowed to work in a project, or we're allowed to do kind of extracurricular things that help bring value to the team, then sometimes by adding on, it's not necessarily about working harder, but adding on things that are more fulfilling and satisfying to you, then it kind of lifts you up overall.
Yeah. So somebody who is not experiencing a huge amount of joy at work, Melanie, where would you recommend they started?
I would recommend that they have a career discussion with me. So this is a free career discussion that I offer to any finance people. So if you're just meeting me for the first time, look me up on LinkedIn or look at my website and get in touch and we can have a chat. But there are some things that we can do ourselves as well. And I think the first thing is thinking about what are the things that you enjoy doing and what are the things that you don't enjoy doing. And it's okay. We can think about negative things. It's okay. It won't spiral us down, but it's almost like a pause to take an honest look at the things that are working for us versus the things that aren't. And I think sometimes we think that, nothing's working for us, or I really don't like working for this organization. We've got the opposite of the rose tinted spectacles on. We've got maybe the green ones on, or the dark glasses or something. And actually, if we stop and think, there are probably some things that are working for us well. And it's about identifying how can we do more of these things and less of the other. The other thing that I talk to people about is about my plant analogy. So I won't go into it in too much detail here, but we're all plants. We all have different strengths, experiences, personalities, preferences, ambitions, etc. We've both got plants behind us in here. And plants are always different. So even if plants look similar to each other's, I might have another similar one in a different room, but maybe it's got a different number of leaves, or it's a slightly different color, or it's got different flowers at different times, or things like that. And we are the plant, and we are in a pot, and the pot represents the role. And sometimes the pot is the wrong size or shape for us. Sometimes it was great when we first came into it, and we've now outgrown the pot, or maybe it was always the wrong shape for us, and we've been kind of in the wrong pot for a while. But actually, if we understand about the pot, if we're in the right pot for us and it gives us room to grow, then we are more likely to grow and flourish and feel satisfied and fulfilled. If we're not, our growth is probably going to be not as easy, or not as fast, or not as complete as if we're in the right pot. The pot needs to be in the right place. So the location of the pot is important. This is a big old plant. It wouldn't fit on a windowsill, but sometimes plants need to be in the sunlight, or they need to be in the kind of indirect sunlight, or they need to be in a shadier place or a moist place or whatever. And actually that location of the pot is really important. And thinking about that and thinking about what that means for you, that can be, am I in the right organization? Am I in the right team? Is this the right kind of culture? Am I in the right industry or the right sector? Am I in the right country? All of these things can be useful questions for us to ask about the location. We might be in the right pot, but in completely the wrong location, or vice versa. And the final piece of the puzzle is about the nurturing that we need as plants. And some plants need lots of water. They're guzzling water all day long. And other plants need very little. Some need trimming and snipping. I don't know the right terms for that. Pruding. And some plants just need to be left alone. Sometimes plants need the dead leaves removing, or sometimes they need special food or whatever. Different plants are going to need different things. And we as individuals need different types of nurturing as well. And this nurturing can be useful to us, or it can actually squish us. It can constrain us if we've got the wrong kind of nurturing.
Message back to the leader.
Yes, absolutely. So that's going to be our direct manager and or kind of the leadership as well. So figuring out all of these things rather than going, feel a bit unenthusiastic about my job, or I've fallen out in love with it, or being an accountant stinks, actually thinking about some of these things. What's working for you? What's not working for you? And if you can focus on the bit that's not working for you, what can you do to change this? And that can be a great place to start if you want to look at this on your own.
One thing that I love is the Strengths Finder 2.0 from Gallup.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
I'd counsel anybody to give it a go. It's about 10 quid to buy the book. The book gives you a code that gets you into a self-assessment, answer all the questions, and you get this fantastic report back that gives you your strengths.
Yeah.
Go back to the book and it gives you tactics to use those top 5 strengths better. There are lots of things that you might be able to put into your daily routine to make it a bit different, to make it a bit better.
Absolutely.
Play to your strengths, or as some people call them, superpowers.
Superpowers, yeah. I like the superpowers.
Yeah.
And if we're playing to our strengths, then it definitely helps us feel better, and it can help us move forward faster and better as well.
Absolutely. So, Melanie, we've found out today how to be finance fit. So, you're developing this. Where does it go next?
Where does it go next? So at the moment, I'm developing it as a talking topic, as a speech. I'm looking to work with different finance teams. So I've already got a team that I'm working with on various elements of this. I've not spoken to them about the finance fit kind of name, but I will be introducing it to them. So they're going to be my first opportunity to work on this. And then off the back of this, I will be looking at taking an honest look at what works, what doesn't work. And I'm looking to develop program's a loose word, but different elements in terms of helping the team think through the future finance, or the future orientation, the innovation, and then the thriving, looking at which area needs most focus to help them move forward. And it might be that some of the elements they're already kind of all over, and other elements they probably need some more work on, or it might be that they need a little bit of a tweak on each, but it's helping them create that strategy to help them become finance fit.
There are so many different elements in here that we've talked about. I think it definitely does lend itself to that program approach.
Yeah.
I wish you every success going forward developing this further. I'll be watching with interest.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I've certainly got the energy to do this, and I'm looking forward to certainly working with this first team and then seeing how it develops after that.
Melanie Coeshott, thank you for being this week's guest on the GrowCFO Show.
My pleasure.